In this video, we're going to take a look at everything you need to know for NASM's single leg squat assessment, not only what to look for, overactive and underactive potential muscles, but also what this actually means as far as practical application in the gym. Joe Drake here with the Axiom Fitness Academy, and I have my lovely single leg model, Jess, here, and she is a great person to have with the single leg assessment today because of some of the things that we've got going on with hips and back. And the single leg squat assessment is a great one to do in addition to some of the other assessments that you learn inside the NASM textbook and as you're getting started as a personal trainer. So the single leg squat, I think first off important to identify what are we looking for. Anytime we can get somebody on a single leg, the great thing is we're gonna get a couple things going on. We're gonna get a good indication of what Jess's balance is like, all right? Not only overall, right, balance, but asymmetry. Is there a big discrepancy with her ability to hold a good position on the left side versus the right side? This assessment is most appropriate for people who've already done the overhead squat, and also you may be doing some single leg training, right? You plan on doing some single leg exercises, which for me, that's just about everybody. And you wanna get a sense of, because you're not only gonna get balance, you're also gonna get a little sense of strength associated as well. Anytime we lift that one leg off the ground, then the body's not able to hide as many things as it might in that overhead squat assessment. And the great thing with the single leg squat assessment, we're only gonna look from the anterior side. And there's really only like one or two things that we're looking for. It's not a really complicated one, but it is one that's great and gives us a lot of information. Now this is one, keep in mind, if you have individuals, you have active older clients who may have some risks of falling, other issues, just be smart about who you do the actual single leg squat assessment with. And I'll also show you as we get going how you can modify this a little bit to make it single leg-esque without it being fully single leg. So as we dive into this, really the main angle you want to be for your single leg squat assessment is really just going to be the anterior view. All right, your setup is important. First off, you guys can see Jess has no shoes on, which is great. Not to say you couldn't do it with shoes, but you're gonna get the best information when we've got good contact with the ground. So we've got no shoes on. And as she sets up, we're gonna wanna make sure we try to coach her up to keep those toes forward. That's gonna be important because that's gonna impact how our foot moves as well. All we're gonna do is take those hands, place them on the hips, all right? On the hips so we don't get the hands working out here for balance and we just see what's going on. Foot is gonna be forward, and then the opposite foot, all we're gonna do is just lift it about 6 inches off the ground. Doesn't have to be very high, so we'll start with just that. This is the best place to start, because first off, I just wanna see, even as we first begin, can my client hold single leg balance? And she's actually doing pretty phenomenal right now. She wasn't doing this well in practice when we were doing this earlier, but she's doing great. And now from here, it's not so important how deep the client goes, but all we want Jess to do is take her time, maybe about 5 reps on this side, and then we'll look at both, is just squat down on that single leg as low as she comfortably can, and then come back up. So just take your time. We're gonna go through about 5 reps, and I want you guys just to pay attention and see what's going on. So first off, just from an overall big picture perspective, we're gonna get a sense of like, okay, now that we're moving, what does that balance look like? What's that dynamic balance versus the static position? And then the only real major checkpoint, and you can good right there, let's go the opposite side, is really we're just looking at what happens with the knee. Inside your guys' NASM text, you'll find this is really the only major checkpoint that you look for somebody, is does the knee cave in? So taking our time, and we can see with Jess, although there's like a little wobble, that's pretty normal. Let's be real, how many people are used to doing single leg exercise? Not too many. And I'm actually surprised for the issues she has had with her hips and body and knees in the past, this is actually pretty good. So go ahead and pause for a second. Awesome. First off, we'll give her a golf clap from behind the camera, wherever you guys are right now, because I bet you won't do as well. But that's really what we're looking for, is we're just looking for what happens with the knee. If you guys have gone through some of our other videos, you guys have watched the static postural assessment video, you guys have watched our overhead squat, then we've talked about this pes planus syndrome, right? The foot collapsing in, or the arch collapsing and that knee caving in. Well, we're kind of just looking for the same thing here, because our body might be good at hiding it with 2 feet on the ground, but the moment I go single leg, it may not give me much of a choice. So as far as our overactive and underactive muscles, what might be pulling us in position or not firing to keep us in the right position? So let's go back to that single leg stance here again. And I just want you for a second, just even though you were doing a great job without it, as you squat down, let the knee cave in just a little bit. Yeah, so again, it looks uncomfortable to even watch, but it's our body's way of still completing the movement with other things going on. So stand up for a second, and you can stand normal for me. So if we have that knee caving in, overactive wise, potentially, especially again, like you go back to your other assessments, some similar things happening, potentially overactivity in those adductors, right? Meaning too much signal. As my hips go backwards, that could be pulling me in. And we also, which is I think a challenging one to think about, adductors is easy because it's on that side because it could be pulling in, but also our TFL, right? Your TFL, this tensor fasciae latae, small muscle that almost attaches as part of our IT band down the side of our leg. So if we have overactivity there or those adductors, that could be kind of pulling us out of position, all right? So that's one aspect. What I find, especially with this for a lot of individuals, underactivity oftentimes is the culprit, meaning the muscles that aren't firing enough. And the two most likely areas of underactivity are going to be potentially the shin, right? These shin muscles, the anterior and posterior tibialis, because those muscles, not only do they help us pull us into this dorsiflexion position, but they just help to regulate position of the foot, right? As the foot sits up here and the ankle, these muscles help to keep us in good position and alignment. So we may have underactivity there. We need to do some exercises to get those working more often, some isometrics, right? Some extended stuff to work those. And then also glute medius. It could be glutes overall, but especially when we're in that single leg position, all right, in order for us to maintain position, those glutes are isometrically firing in a big way to regulate this knee, hopefully over the top of like the second, third toe here. All right, so oftentimes it may also be just finding out maybe we need to do some more hip and glute strengthening exercises to help keep Jess's knee in a better position. So to bring this back together, thankfully there aren't too many things you have to look for when it comes to this single leg squat assessment, but the real thing we're looking for is asymmetries one side versus the other. It's one thing if I find issues with balance and knee valgus on both sides. Oftentimes it can become even more problematic if we just find it on one side, as the body is great at shifting itself away. So get comfortable and familiar with the overactive and the underactive muscles that we mentioned inside of this video. And if you haven't had the opportunity to watch our videos on the static postural assessment and the overhead squat assessments, go do that. You guys can find the link inside the description for this video, because it's going to make a lot more sense as you're able to triangulate some of the information that you're finding in the different assessments. And the single leg squat one is a great one, because chances are if you see some of this stuff happening here, knees caving in, you might be likely to see it in the overhead squat assessment as well.